Mary, did you know that San Francisco has a poo patrol?
Oh, what? A what now?
What now?
They have a poo department.
What do they do?
Well, okay, so like, you know what a fire department does, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's a fire, you call the fire department, they come out, put the fire out. San Francisco has a poo department. Same thing.
Call like, hey, there's poop on the street.
And then they'll come out.
Pooper scooper.
I don't think they actually have sirens or anything, but they show
Sort of
up.
like the people that pick up roadkill.
Yeah.
It's
But-
job creation.
There's
There you go.
Oh, great.
There's so much human feces all over the streets of San Francisco, they had to create a department.
They need to hit it with lasers, dude, and turn it into graphene. It's carbon-based.
Okay, well, I don't know
Dr.
about
Evil over here.
but just
Reuse, recycle.
But just think about desalination, which they have one plant in Carlsbad. I think I've been there. It was really cool to watch.
Yeah.
They just massive tubes, and they just force at really high pressure the water through these filters, which then purifies it, and then pump out all the brackish water back into the ocean. Local environmentalists are saying the brackish water, or it's brine, it goes down to the bottom and kills all of the base level organisms, which wipes out the food chain straight up.
I'm sure it does. So then we have to pick, which is a very major dilemma for people who are very far left and progressive. What matters more, human life or ocean life? And then we have to also pick on our energy, which everyone hates. What matters more, turning off our power and having rolling blackouts and all of that, or providing drinking water?
If you took away luxury and security from the United States, you would have no leftists.
So I've said this for a really long time, and I gathered this by watching TikTok, not to the extent that you do, Mary, thankfully, thank God.
I got banned. I don't
yeah,
watch
I know
TikTok
you did.
now.
Yeah, you can't watch it anymore. No, I'm just kidding. They're stealing our information. But I figured that if we got rid of free time, we'd be good. We'd be fine. No more free time. None of these teachers with blue hair talking about their weird genders and confusing people with pronouns. All of that would be gone. We'd just be focused on our work. It would be fine. That's my 2 cents. That's like the simplest
I disagree.
method I can see. How so?
Because you'd have to erase 100 years of technological advancement to get anywhere near that. And free time existed in a long time ago. We had tons of free time. It's just that it's the level of communication and the level of hyper tribalization that's causing here's what I'm saying with you get rid of luxury and security, you have no leftists, because when people have to think about survival, that's when they're like, me and no one else, and I'll do what it takes. So you're mentioning environmentalism.
Yeah.
They're going to decide humans. And they're going to decide themselves.
I hope so.
You're not going to have, I mean, you may have people at this point who are like starving and on the street crawling, being like, I will not eat the food. I really doubt it. They're going to be like, I will eat you. And then they'll kick your door in and they'll take your beans, you know?
Yeonmi Park said starvation is like all you can think of is food when when you're starving. She came from North Korea and fled the country, and said that she fled because she was starving. So she chose to go become a sex slave in China to get out, so she had food.
Right.
Yeah, she said that she was like sitting there looking at the lights and just thinking like, I wonder if there's food there.
People would be like laying on the side of the ground that had died from starvation, cannibalism. I mean, it's just total rampage.
Yeah, I think that a lot of what we see in modern politics, particularly with feminism, is due to the fact that we are a bubble of security.
Yeah.
So if you think about evolutionary psychology and you go way back in time, like men were like, we have to die to protect the women because the women are the ones who like create people.
Yes.
So, you know, men would, if you have 100 men and 100 women and 99 men die, your society survives because the women can have kids. But if 99 women die, you're done. One woman could not sustain a population.
Boy, that's some interesting implications in that.
Well, yeah, it's the root. It's the root of a lot of the gender roles. If you look at it's look, I'm not making this up. This is just like academic gender evolutionary psychology. And so what happens is gender roles emerged from that. You take a bunch of nomadic humans and they would fortify the women because those that didn't ceased to exist.
Right.
And those that did thrived. The men would go out and hunt big game and bring back fish or protein. The women would gather and keep food and protect the family and raise the kids. Keep the home.
Literally.
And then a bunch of the guys would die on the hunt or in war.
Yep.
But the women would survive and have kids. So that ends up with, in Europe, with the escalation of warfare between nations, the women are staying in the home to be protected and the men are going out and doing work. And then you build a society based on those ideas and you get traditional gender roles. So I'm not saying those are good things. I'm just saying that's the common idea of what
stark
happened.
Human reality of our biological conditions.
Yeah. So we end up with this safety bubble and luxury bubble. We produce all this oil and energy, and now we have people who can gorge themselves and not have to do any work. I mean, come on, let's be real. The people in New York City who work at like BuzzFeed, I always bring this up. Millennials, oh, come on, let's talk about Washington Post. This woman who gets fired because she's complaining about Dave Weigel, making a sexist tweet. That could not exist 200 years ago. Seriously? I mean, maybe some of those ideas started to exist because we had technological advancements. But if you're like, we are being bombarded and a raiding party just stole the last of our chickens, you wouldn't be going like he said a naughty word. You'd be like, I'm dying and I need food.
Yeah, it is first world problems. Right.
Take away the first world, all that stuff goes away. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying I don't think the modern left could exist I kind of feel like if you took your modern leftist, forced them to work on a farm for a couple weeks, they would really change their minds.
Yeah.
Unless they're like deeply rooted in their neuroses. Right. And then they would be like, I should be in charge of the farm and you should serve me.
I mean, that's kind of what parents do with bad kids when they send them off to wilderness survival camp. Some of them come back totally changed.
But even that is so contrived and fake. Like, I've been thinking about it recently, how like when people grew up on farms and they saw animals reproducing and giving birth and dying, it would be impossible to have the level of confusion about gender and life and death that we have right now.
Right.
If you were watching that as a child, as you grew up, you would be immune to the propaganda that we're getting inundated with today.
Which is why McCoy was on the show saying that exact thing. Yeah. He was raised around farm animals and had just knew from age 4. He never had the birds and the bees talk. He never had to because he always knew how sex worked.
Was it Seamus, I think he mentioned? Someone asked him, how did people learn how to reproduce before sex ed or something like that? Was it Seamus who mentioned that?
Yeah, somebody mentioned they had a friend who was like, how did we know about this? Watching animals. What?
No, not watching animals. Like, all of human existence is just like, I like that thing. I'm going to that person.
I just rewatched Blue Lagoon recently. Am I canceled now? Because that was... I guess. I won't even say why I would be canceled for that. But they figured it out. And they had a baby. 2 people stranded on an island since they were children.
It's almost like their innate biological drives.
Yes.
And that, like, a dude looks at a woman and goes, I would like to, grab that woman.
Auga.
Auga. There you go. Yep, auga. That's exactly it, as the cartoons dictate.
Like, how much free will do we have as a species? Because, like you're saying, or you guys, this keeps coming up that, like, unless we're absolutely forced to change, like you're saying, California, if the power goes out, then you'll start to see people, like, pushing this technology. If they run out of water, they're going to start desalinating. How much of this is free will? Like, how much are we actually in control or, like, deciding to go against our instinct? How much of it is just only when we need to do it are we going to do it?
Well, it's free will, but there's a lot of people who don't exercise free will. Yeah. There's long-term thinking and short-term thinking. And I think you'll find among the, I guess, culture war right, whatever you want to call it, I always just say post-liberals, moderates, libertarians, and conservatives, a tendency towards long-term thinking and delayed gratification.
Yeah.
And among the left, you get instant gratification and short-term thinking.
High time preference.
I'll give you a really good example. Short-term thinking. I'm seeing all of these memes pop up. It's crazy. I don't know why this meme is emergent on the left. And they're like, why don't we plant fruit trees in cities so that everyone can just eat fruit and not have to worry about where their food comes from?
Why don't we just do the good things so that the bad thing don't happen?
Yeah. Do you guys know why we don't do public fruit trees in big cities?
So, well, there's a couple of reasons. You'll probably have more. One is the contaminants from the air actually make the plants poisonous. 2 is it takes sometimes
toxic.
4 to 7 years for a tree to bear fruit.
That's true. And then the other thing is when we transplant fruit-bearing trees into cities, the fruit rots, and then you get pests, insects, rats, and pigeons, and then disease.
Someone has to come and collect the fruit and maintain the tree.
Yep.
Very dutifully.
It's this remarkably childish, short-term, single-layer thought that I keep seeing where they're like, imagine walking down the street and the trees had fruit on them. It's like, oh, and there's no negative repercussions. Nothing else happens. No one's got to care for them. No one maintains them. The fruit is just there, and it stays there until you're ready to eat it. That is the talk of someone who's never had a garden in their life. You know why? We grew tomatoes. You know what we did wrong? We planted them all at the same time. And you know what happens when you plant all your tomatoes at the same time? They all ripen at the exact moment. And then it's like, who wants to eat 300 tomatoes today?
Yeah.
Because they go bad tomorrow. And so then someone was like, Tim, you need to plant them 1 week at a time. Plant 1 a week later, plant 1, then you'll get 7. The next week you get 7. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
But the insects will swarm and eat them if you don't.
Yeah, so we threw them to the chickens. We just started like, there you go, chickens. And then here's the best part. The chickens poop out the seeds and they grow again.
Oh, nice.
Circle of life.
Yeah. Yeah, because they'd poop wherever, and then all of a sudden we noticed tomato plants were growing, and we're like, oh, look at that.
All right, well, that's kind of charming. It worked out.
Well, that's how it's supposed to go. I mean, but you look at the single layer short-term thinking, and that's exactly what we've got more houses than homeless people. What's wrong with this society? We should just put homeless people in houses. Then I'm like, who's going to maintain the house? Who's going to inspect the house? Who's going to check the electrical wiring of the house? Who is going to be paying attention to any of the rot or termites or any of the problems in the houses? Yeah, you can't just put a homeless person in a house. But these utopian thinkers, typically leftists, don't think beyond that.
Well, the prosperity we have now that we're living off of came from the age of reason. And that is why I think leisure time is valuable and is necessary for human flourishing. But then now we're sinking into the age of the will, and anything is true if we will it.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with a lack of God. And I don't mean like from an overt religious perspective. I mean it from a people who don't believe that things exist beyond them or or greater than them. So the people, I feel like there's a tendency among people who believe, I am nothing but a wet robot. Nothing matters.
Yep.
To engage in more nihilistic thinking like, whatever feels good, I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But people don't want to believe that.
It's to write a blank check for your bad behavior.
I wouldn't necessarily say bad behavior because that implies that they're like a morality. I think it's self-aggrandizing and selfish behavior.
Carnal behavior.
Okay, carnal. I see laziness and apathy and cowardliness also come out of that.
Yeah.
And that I think is really disappointing.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.